Hey folks, Adam Brian Dada here with the Low Reward Living video series. Today, I'm going to start a conversation on interesting takes on some lower reward goals. This isn't really a 2-week self-study course, as many of the other ones are, but I would like to get into this ideology, this conversation, with the potential of 2 weeks of daily posts. So if you are interested, please do post in the comments below on YouTube. I'm trying to avoid comments on Facebook and Instagram and elsewhere. I'd like to stay on YouTube to interact with all you folks. Also, if you haven't watched any of my videos yet, these are not binge videos. I don't do any editing. There's no special effects, no music, no logos, no requests for support or money. What I want you to do is stop watching today, start with video 1, and maybe watch 1 video every day or 2. Don't watch more than that. It is not intended for you to binge. When I was younger, I owned a nightclub. I was late teens, early 20s. Not a very popular nightclub, but it was making pretty good money. And where all my business partners and wealthier clients had these huge houses, monstrous houses, that took not just their wives or girlfriends or themselves and their kids and all to keep and maintain, but also required cleaning people and general housekeepers that came in, contract workers, landscapers, and all that noise. I remember thinking, wow, these guys have millions of dollars and yet they still have to earn more millions of dollars to maintain what they have. A lot of them had fancy cars, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Jaguars, etc. And me, I had a beat up 1980s rusted Toyota Corolla with no power windows, no power doors, door locks, no air conditioning, no radio, no fancy rims, just an old beat up car. I probably paid $500 for it. And yet my car would be waiting out front of the nightclub, whatever nightclub it was, waiting for me. And everyone used to laugh. Look at that guy. He drives a beat up old Toyota. Who is he? Well, the difference between me and my beat up old Toyota that cost me $500 and all my peers and colleagues and partners and clients is who were driving $100,000, $200,000 cars is I had a chauffeur. Crazy to think about. You know, minimum wage guy making $6, $7 an hour at the time. Working 40 hours a week was $300 a week, $1,200 a month, $15,000 a year. My car was always clean. It was always warm on the inside. I never had to worry about drinking and driving. I never had to worry about where I was going to park. If I wanted to take my girlfriends or lovers or mistresses to the mall for shopping or let them go get groceries or whatever, I would send my chauffeur in a beat up 1980 rusty Toyota Corolla. And the cost of that car, including the chauffeur, was less than the cost of any luxury car you can name. Because when something broke on it, I just threw it out and bought a new one. But the chauffeur was the same. And it didn't cost much. It was $20,000 a year, way less than the cost of a luxury car back then, and obviously way less than the cost of a luxury car today. Once you consider what it costs to, change the oil in a Porsche or get new brakes in a Ferrari or those fancy 22-inch tires and all that nonsense. So for me, young guy, all the future ahead of me, I didn't want a fancy car. I wanted an efficient, restful, relaxing life. Same with my house. I live in a tiny 900 square foot house, no second floor, no basement, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. And when I was a kid, I had a similar kind of house. And in one of the couches, not even in the bedroom, I had what I called the butler, a young guy, some kind of ex-felon, no big deal, nothing too terrible. And I said, listen, I'll give you room and board, I'll pay him minimum wage, make my coffee in the morning, press my slacks, iron my shirt. When whatever girl of the week was spending the night, I made sure she slept in. And my butler would cook her eggs, bring her a newspaper, run her a bath, and send her on her way. And my house at the time was about $25,000 compared to my peers who were living in $500,000, $1 million homes, and they were working their butts off, taking care of everything in these 5,000 square foot mansions. And then there's me with the butler. Crazy, a lot of people say. But when you put a focus on that and you think about how much of your life is spent taking care of the consumer goods that were marketed and advertised to you, it makes sense. Why not splurge on time preference, splurge on division of labor, but have way less than others who can't afford to do that because they're too busy working their butts off to afford just the upkeep themselves. The low reward goals are not to live like a monk. I love chicks. I love women. I love travel. I love beaches. In order to afford to do that all the time, since the age of 25, every weekend in winter for 20 years, I had to cut back on things. I had to stop drinking, and I love a good drink. I'll still have a drink with my 80-year-old dad if he wants to have one. If I succeeded at selling something, reselling something for profit, or if I succeeded at maybe a goal of cleaning out the garage or changing my brakes or whatever it is, maybe I'll celebrate with a drink. But it's not something that I do for fun. It's something I do to celebrate. I'm not looking at bigger boats. I'm not looking at bigger homes. I'm not looking at newer cars, because that's not why I have those things. The house is just where I lay my head. The car is potentially what takes me from A to B, but with Uber, do I even need a car? Do the numbers meet up? For the years that I had a so-called chauffeur, the numbers made sense for me to do that because there was no reason for me to drive a fancy car myself. Cleaning the snow off of it, de-icing the locks, running it through the car wash, changing the oil, changing the wipers, vacuuming, cleaning the schmutz off, wiping up the cigarette butts, and all that junk. It made more sense financially for me to free up my time and hire some low-skilled, basically unemployable employee to take care of me. And these are these interesting things about lower reward living that a lot of people don't think about. They think lower reward living means become a monk. They think that it means give up everything fun in life. They think it means be bored all the time. They think it means sitting at home with the lights off and then no TV and no music and no beer and no drugs and no sex and no friends and all that stuff, with, tending to a rock garden. And that's not what it is at all. I look at lower reward living as maximizing the quality of life that I have by minimizing all the consumerism that I'm seeking. Consumerism. If you want to drink, there's a million lower reward ways of doing that than going to the bar or buying a 6-pack or a 30-pack at the store. If you want to be a gambler, there's a ton of lower reward opportunities for gambling. If you like professional sports, there's a million ways to take in professional sports that don't involve being some mindless fanatic for what is marketed for you to be a fan of. In all of these areas, not just in what kind of car you drive or what kind of house you live in or what size of house you live in all of these areas, the end goal isn't that you can't have those nicer things. The end goal is for you to plan what you want, why you want it, and what is the most financially and temporal way to own it forever. What can you do to secure these fun behaviors that doesn't require that you work a job you hate for the rest of your life and basically die in the fancy house that you never paid off? So you can spend more time with your friends and spend more time with your family and spend more time with yourself on a beach or on a golf course or tending your garden or whatever the case may be, and do it efficiently so that your whole life isn't spent depressed and then joyful. and then depressed, and then joyful, celebrating the success of others on TV or through the news or through social media. I know when we first started the discussions about lower reward living many years ago, maybe 2 decades ago, it's possible, we had talked about mimicking the monks, mimicking the priesthood, mimicking as boring of a life as possible. And it wasn't until I really researched brain function and neurotransmitters and hormone support and neuroengineering of consumer goods, it wasn't until I did all that that I realized this entire mindset is one that is sustainable forever, and it doesn't have to mean that you hate your life. Because I think a lot of people who are stuck on the consumer treadmill right now, that hamster wheel, actually hate their life, and they don't realize it. They're always seeking something more fun. They're always looking for a new TV show to excite them. They're always looking for some memory from their childhood, or a song, or a book, or a movie, or whatever it is that might take them back to a better time, because now is not the better time. Now is the way worse time. And what it boils down to is we want to find pleasure in our life today, but not addictive pleasure, not that chasing the high constantly pleasure, but that relaxed pleasure, that smug, I've succeeded because I don't need to go to a job I hate, because my life is financially and temporally sustainable. And lower reward living can get you there. And I look at my old peers who still have those $1 million homes and those multi-$100,000 cars, and they will never be able to relax and smugly say, I've succeeded, because you can call them on it. You could say, well, why do you still have to work? Why do you still have to work? Why do you still not get to spend time with your kids, or your wife, or your wives, or your girlfriends, or whatever the case may be? Why is it that you don't actually get to live? All you get to do is consume, from one mindless addiction to the next. Why don't you just hire someone to drive you around in your Ferrari or your Toyota Corolla? Why don't you hire someone to press your pants and make your coffee and make eggs for the girl of the week? Why do you have to be the one that runs to McDonald's to get her junk food, or doesn't have anything for her or yourself? You're the one groggily waking up in the morning for that caffeine fix, yelling at CNN or Fox News or whatever the case may be. So this potential 2-week conversation is going to be on what outcomes might there be for people who take on a lower reward lifestyle, and open up that discussion with others. What is available to those who start lowering their rewards? What is a likely goal that makes sense and sounds pleasing and comforting and content? What are the many options in all of the different consumer brain neuroengineered behaviors? What are the options to find a lower reward version that makes sense and is financially and temporarily sustainable without having to have a job you hate, or act in a way that's 100% programmed in your brain by someone else for their profit? That's going to be this series. And if you want to be a part of it, if you want to talk more about it, please do comment below. I'm going through these videos little by little because I'm trying to find maybe 50 to 60 2-week self-studies to work on in the new year that are going to discuss these things. And I only want to cover the ones that people obviously want to hear about. And even if you're coming across this video a year or 2 or 10 later, comment below on YouTube. Stay off the Facebook and the Instagram for right now, or whatever social media is popular when you watch this video. Keep it right here on whatever video streaming network it is, even if it's my own blog, and join the conversation. I'm Adam Brian Dada, and this is the Lower Reward video series.